The next article I wanted to talk about is titled MAGA Pastor. Facebook banning Trump is exactly like Satan killing Jesus. This one's by Hemant Mehta on the Friendly Atheist website, so let's give it a read and see what it says. Right-wing pastor Shane Vaughn of Mississippi's First Harvest Ministries, who credited Donald Trump with the COVID relief bill that not a single Republican voted for, isn't handling the Facebook decision about Trump well. And he's not the only one. I actually have some clips of another guy who's completely disintegrating right now. We're going to take a look at in a second. But this isn't the only situation I've seen this guy in. This guy, Shane Vaughn, actually has come up for me in my research into evangelical nutbags a few times, but I just haven't gotten around to covering him yet. This is my very first time covering this guy, but he's all over the place. He's reasonably big. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So anyways, let's keep reading. Facebook's oversight board said Trump should remain banned from the site for 6 more months while Facebook clarifies its own policies. After that, Trump may be reinstated, or the suspension may continue. Vaughn isn't interested in that nuance. He thinks Trump is banned for life, and he said during a live stream Wednesday that it might work out in the long run because Trump will be back bigger and stronger. This one is actually interesting to me because it's diving a little bit into cancel culture, quote unquote, and whether canceling somebody makes them stronger or not. So I wanted to talk about that in a minute or two. But let's watch this clip by this guy, Shane Vaughn, and see what he had to say for himself.
We need 100,000 patriots to become reporters for Donald Trump. Get his words out there, since they wanted to be so smart that they wound up being stupid, because they made the same mistake that Satan made when he killed Jesus Christ.
Interesting comparison, huh? We're just hearing comparison after comparison from these pastors about how much Trump is like Jesus. Just like Jesus. And another thing, this guy, what he was saying just now, he said that we need to get Trump's words out there. Trump had talked about starting a social media website, basically, a while back. And everybody came to realize that that was just a stupid fucking idea, including Trump himself. So he decided not to start a social media network. What he actually started was a blog where he can post on it and other people can comment on his posts. I believe. That's my understanding of it. I haven't actually been there yet. But Mike Lindell also talked about, the MyPillow guy, he talked about starting a social media website too. And he actually got to the point where it was supposed to come up. I don't know if it eventually was finally started or not, but the day that it was supposed to start, quote unquote, there were a bunch of technical issues and glitches, and it just turned into like a live stream of Mike Lindell. He's just sitting there talking to the audience. Eventually, I think Mike Lindell probably burned a bunch of bridges in the right-wing community by saying that it was for free speech, it's all for freedom of speech, so you can say what you want, but you can't break any of the 10 Commandments, which means no blaspheming, no swearing, no lying, and of course, he decides what's a lie and what's true. So you're not allowed to go on there and say Trump didn't win the election because that's a lie in his mind. He just kind of burned a bunch of bridges with the no swearing thing, honestly. It was supposed to be for biblical values. It turned out to be for Mike Lindell's values and nothing more. So anyways, point is that failed miserably. And Trump realized also that starting a social media network is not easy and not something that you can do at the drop of a hat. So he kind of bailed on that one too and just created a basic blog. Anyway, that's what this guy is talking about. And he'll get into it a little bit more in a second. Let's keep listening.
Made when he killed Jesus Christ. By killing that one man and killing his voice, he created a world full of little Christians that echo the message of Christ. See?
No, that's not what caused Christianity. Jesus' death is not the thing that started Christianity. I don't even know if Jesus was real in the first place. Silencing a message, there's this misconception about canceling people or whatever. Silencing a message cripples that message's ability to spread. That's just what it is. Alex Jones, when he was like banned from like Facebook and Spotify and iTunes and all that other shit, he said, "Oh, we're just going to come back bigger and stronger, baby." Or whatever the fuck it was he said. He was under the misconception that being banned from everywhere and having his voice muted was going to make his voice louder. What gave you that idea? What makes people think that getting canceled makes you stronger? Wrong. That's fucking wrong. You get canceled, that's it, man. Your voice no longer has the ability to spread to as many people as it did before. I'm so fucking sick of this. Does canceling people work? Of course it works. Yes. That's not the question anybody should be asking. The question we should be asking is, should we be canceling? Valid question. Varies from person to person and platform to platform. But does it work? Stupid question. Of course it does. Yes. Let's keep listening.
Stupid on the devil's part. The Bible says, had Satan known what was going to happen, he would never have crucified Jesus Christ. Because what he did was he started a harvest of Christians.
Or it's just a made-up fucking story and a death cult that formed in, 2,000 years ago and then grew into a religion. That's a possibility too, right?
Go the message. He only had one man to deal with. Now he's got a whole population full of us. Same thing they're doing with Trump. Let him crucify him. But we're now the echo, and we're going to put it on every page, every Twitter account, everything we got. Now, because the oversight board didn't rule that we couldn't share Trump content.
There you go. That's his plan. His plan is to take the shit that Trump posts on his new blog, his new social media network or whatever, and they're planning to repost it on social media. Cancellation works. That's a fact. But if you're going to cancel Trump, you're going to have to cancel this shit too, or it's pointless. We can talk about whether or not Trump should be canceled. We can talk about whether or not Trump should be allowed to post on social media. I'm not making any claims about that right at this immediate moment. I'm saying if your goal is to stop the spread of misinformation coming from Trump, you can't just ban Trump. You have to block that content also. And it works. It does work. If you silence that shit, it works. That's why people don't like it. Because it silences a message. Let's keep listening.
Loud on Facebook. For now, anyway. So take advantage of it while we can. All right? So that's great news, isn't it?
That's great news. He's trying to look on the bright side here. No. Trump being banned is not great news for your movement. It's bad fucking news.
Right, so let's go back over here, and let's come back over here and cancel that, and now y'all can come back into my office, all right?
Christ.
Okay, so there we go. That's the plan. I'm ordaining all of you right now as evangelists.
Fascinating verbiage, isn't it?
Of the Trump revival.
The Trump revival. I'm ordaining you all as evangelists for the Trump revival.
Ordaining all of you right now as evangelists of the Trump revival.
Is there any doubt that this is a death cult and a religion at this point? Really? Is there any doubt of that? Anyway, let's keep reading the article by Hemant Mehta. He's partly right. Facebook is evil, just not quite for the reasons he thinks. The comparison of Jesus with Trump, however, is just laughable. The fun part is that if his followers actually spread Trump's lies, they risk losing their own accounts. No big loss to people who live in reality, but I'm sure we're a short while away from hearing the dumbest people in the country whining about how Facebook endorses cancel culture. That's the beauty of Trump, by the way. It's not enough that he loses. He has to drag everyone else down with him. It can't happen quickly enough. Agreed. But this guy, Shane Vaughn, he's not the only one bitching about this. There's another guy named Bill Mitchell, okay? I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's pretty big on Twitter. In fact, I think his Twitter may have been removed recently. He may have been suspended for misinformation. I don't know. Anyways, Bill Mitchell has a show, a podcast. I'm not sure what it's on. And he is an extreme right-wing propagandist to the highest degree. Doesn't get more extreme than this guy, really. He's fucking up there. So let's listen to what he has to say about Trump's Facebook ban.
We got to break up big tech and so on and so forth. Just do it. Just do it. Where's the legislation? The talk is cheap. The talk is meaningless. And these guys realize, the Zuckerbergs and so on and so forth, they got huge legal staffs. They got all the money in the world. They realize that you're not going to do anything, and that's why they act with such boldness to get rid of Trump, get rid of me, get rid of other conservatives, other platforms.
My God, this guy acts exactly like this lawyer that I met one time. This lawyer, I sit down with him and he's talking to me, right? And I'm talking about, like, I just kind of dive in a little bit to what I'm doing, what I do for work. I'm like, yeah, I'm a YouTuber and I talk about Trump and cults and, all this other stuff. I think this was immediately after the election. The lawyer started trying to convince me that Trump was right anyways. He's like, no, I'm a Democrat. I've voted Democrat my whole life. But, they say if you vote Republican when you're, what is it? What's the saying? If you vote Republican when you're young, you have no heart. And if you vote Democrat when you're old, you have no brains, or something like that. He pulled that line out on me, which is a bullshit line in itself. I'm not going to get into that right now. But he sat there and tried to convince me that it was right to vote Republican, and it was absolutely fucking disgusting. But he acted exactly like this guy right here, Bill Mitchell. Exactly like him. Anyway, let's keep listening.
Conservatives, other platforms, because they realize it's all talk. Okay? Until you threaten these guys' bottom line. And I said on my feed the other day, you know what we need to do? We need to go after guys like Zuckerberg and charge him with seditious conspiracy.
For what? What did Zuckerberg do that would, and is that even a crime? Seditious conspiracy? Is that like in the law? Is that the name of the crime that he would commit? Seditious conspiracy? Or are those two separate crimes? Sedition and conspiracy to commit a crime. I have a strong, distinct feeling this guy's just making shit up off the top of his head. And his personality just fucking grates on me. Let's keep listening.
Him with seditious conspiracy and throw his ass in prison. I'm serious. Seize his company, seize the assets, throw him in prison.
Wow, that's a good libertarian right there, right? Seize this private company. Who's going to seize it? The government? Is the government going to seize it? Who runs it after that? Does the government run Facebook? You sure you really want that, Bill? I think that's probably a bad fucking idea. I think he hasn't thought this through all the way.
Throw him in prison for seditious conspiracy, which is a felony. Yeah. Why not? Why not? We should.
God, this guy is so fucking cringy. Oh my God. I have to do more about this guy. This is the kind of response that we're seeing from people after Trump's Facebook ban was upheld. Twitter was Trump's main source of misinformation. That's what he used the most to spread his disinformation propaganda. And I seriously doubt he's getting his Twitter back anytime soon. He can probably count that out permanently. We're in a much better place now than we were 6 months ago or even 8 months ago. Cancellation works. Now, I don't necessarily believe in canceling people for any old thing, but it was justified in Trump's case. He has started a death cult. He has started a religion and gotten people killed. If that's not justification for removing his access to Twitter, I don't know what is.